Well, hello and welcome to the Edgewood 4G podcast. My name is Kyle Parks, and I'm a discipleship pastor here at Edgewood. And here at the church, we gather, grow, give, and go with the gospel to our neighbors and the nations. And it is good to be back in the studio. I haven't been on here for quite some time. You might have seen a podcast with me on it a few weeks ago, but that actually was recorded months ago. And so this is the first time I've been in here in a couple months. But it's good to be back on. I was gone away on a sabbatical for about 6 weeks, and I've since been back about a month now. And today I'm here all by myself. Well, not completely all by myself. Will's here, of course, doing a wonderful job behind the scenes, and Dave just ran off somewhere. But today I just wanted to share a little bit about my sabbatical experience and do a little bit of sharing about rest and rejuvenation, some things I learned while I was away. And I've already kind of shared with the staff. We'll be sharing more with the deacons, just some things that God taught me. And, you know, now that these sabbaticals are going to be happening maybe a little more often for our pastors, you know, what are some best practices and things of that nature that will help those pastors that go on these in the future. And so, yeah, I think Chad was maybe the first one after Brian went early this year, and then I went from mid-March to the end of April. And so have been back about a month. But yeah, I just wanted to share some things with you today. But first off, let me just share what I did for those 6 weeks. So my family, my wife Lisa and our 4 kids, what we did to start off, we went for a week on a road trip down to the southeast. I used to live in Alabama. I spent some time in Tennessee and South Carolina as well. So we went on a road trip and just visited friends and family along the way, Kentucky, South Carolina, Tennessee, and had a great time visiting friends. And we went to the beach. It was actually about 60 degrees there, but my kids, you know, they're from the Midwest, so they were even in the water. It was freezing cold, but they were enjoying it, having the time of their life. But it was good to catch up with people along the way, stay with friends along the way. I used to be a youth pastor at a church in South Carolina, so made some connections there again. After that, we dropped our kids off with my parents, and then Lisa and I, we flew to Eastern Europe, and we spent a few days in Poland. And it's not just a random country. We went there for a reason, for a purpose. So a little over a year ago, we had Nadia at our home. She's actually been on this podcast before. She was an exchange student who lived with us for a year and has been back almost a year now. But we went to go visit her and spend some time with her family since they had invited us out. So we had a wonderful time with them. They treated us so well, took us some of the coolest places in Gdansk, Poland. Then we spent some time in Warsaw and Krakow, kind of took trains all over the place. But fascinating country, learned a lot, especially about how the war back in the 40s affected that country. A lot of hard things that took place there. If you know anything about history and locations, that's actually where the concentration camp Auschwitz is in southern Poland. So Lisa and I actually went down there and visited. I love history, love to learn, but that was definitely a very sobering experience, a day going down there. And that's something I'll probably talk more about in the future, and whether it's on a podcast or preaching. Definitely some things I learned, but some things to share about when it comes to the evil in the world and the capacity for that in the human heart, but then also how do we get through hard things like that without God? You know, we have to have him. He's our source of hope and meaning, but also forgiveness when it comes to things of that nature. So that's something I'll be exploring in the future, I'm sure. But it was just really neat to connect back with Nadia. She became a believer while she was in her home. I was able to baptize her, and we talked about that on a podcast. That was really neat to spend time in her context. After that, we flew to Latvia to visit my aunt and uncle, who are missionaries in Riga, the country, the capital there, and spent some time at their international church, just trying to encourage them and spend time with them. It was a wonderful time with family there. Then we went to West Asia to visit one of our own who was part of a missionary training that's taking place there, and wanted to encourage her and spend time with her and learn about this training that's taking place in West Asia. They're doing a wonderful job preparing people to go to the field, go to the unreached, learning language, being immersed in the culture, learning how to run a business. I mean, it's really well done. So we wanted to go there and see that for ourselves. Upon returning, we picked up our kids, went back home. I got to spend some time in Chicago with some college friends that I hadn't seen in a while. We had an absolute blast. Hadn't laughed that much in a long time. Really enjoyed that. My wife was able to go see friends in Chicago as well. Then the next week, I was able to take some time and get away by myself and just kind of reflect on what God has been teaching me. Did some fasting and praying for about 30 hours at a camp there that they graciously allowed me to come to and just be there by myself. So this is in this cabin in the woods, just spending time with God, fasting, praying, thinking, journaling. And it was just an awesome time. I would encourage you to do that if you're ever able to. Go away out in nature, go camping, spend time alone with God, bring your Bible, bring a journal, and then just be ready to learn from what God wants to teach you and show you. So that was a really good time away. And then just spend a lot of time with my kids, hanging out, planting a garden, being outside. Had a wonderful time doing that. And then the very last week of the sabbatical, I went to a conference in Indianapolis, so that was really good, really encouraging to be with other pastors and church leaders and learning from some of the best and brightest speakers there are out there today, and took lots of notes there, learned a lot. I'm going to be sharing a little bit of that, reflecting on that as I preach this weekend as well. I spent some time reading on the sabbatical, so read 3 books, read Knowledge of the Holy by A.W. Tozer. If you're ever reading anything by him, it's super deep. Just be ready to read slowly or go back and read that sentence again, but it's really good. I listened to Paradise Lost by John Milton. That might be one you want to take the Spark Notes or the Cliff Notes to listen to as you go through it, because there's definitely a lot that's hard to understand, but very interesting. Listen to that as well. And then a book called The Volunteer, a history book about someone who infiltrated Auschwitz, and just, again, love learning about that time period, that era, but what it was like there and what took place. And this person actually survived the camp and came out of that for a time, and so learned a lot there as well. It definitely took some time for me to slow down being on this sabbatical. I wear different hats there. I got a lot of irons in the fire. And so maybe it took a few weeks for me to kind of just be in the moment and not be thinking about, hey, what's next? What do I need to accomplish next? What tasks do I need to get into next? But eventually I was able to do that and be more in the moment, especially with my family and the kids. And so that was definitely a gift to be able to do that. But yeah, I just want to share some thoughts, some things I've learned, but then also some things I've taught on when it comes to rest and rejuvenation. And what makes this helpful for me is now I've actually been able to do that for a time, to be away and to kind of reflect on some of the things that I learned. But there's definitely some culprits when it comes to rest and rejuvenation. Some of those are busyness. If you notice in this day and age, when we ask people how they're doing, often one or both of us will say, hey, we're busy. We're all busy. We all have lots of things going on in our life. And it's hard to say yes to something without saying no to something else, or taking on something without letting something else go. Definitely in this day and age, we just have a lot of things going on, and we fill that time with things. So busyness is definitely a culprit to rest and rejuvenation. So if you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling like, man, I need to get away, I need to change something, you're definitely going to have to prioritize that, like our mental, physical, spiritual health. At some point, you got to slow down and take some time to evaluate, all right, what's the thing that's going to help me the most now? Another thing that's a culprit to rest and rejuvenation is just, I think, information overload. Like, we were never meant to gather and be able to discern all the information that's coming into our heads these days. Think social media, think news, think the internet, all of it. It's just overwhelming. And a lot of it we can't do anything about, right? A lot of it's just information, but we can't do anything about it, like what's going on the other side of the world. Maybe we can pray, but oftentimes there's no opportunity to actually help or do something. And so it just becomes one more burden on us. It becomes one more thing that we're thinking about, when in reality, maybe that's not the best use of our time. So we live in the age of information, but because of that, we live in the age of distraction. And some are calling it the age of despair, because a lot of the news that's coming in is just, it's negative, and it's hard to filter it all out. And so we just need to realize our place and God's place. Hey, God's in control, and he's going to take care of things, and we have to be okay with that. And so when it comes to busyness, information overload, what are some things that you can get away from and spend some time apart from in order to be able to get some more rest in your life? And a big part of that is the phones and the social media. So, I definitely took some time to be away from my phone while I was on sabbatical. Since returning, definitely taking off some apps, trying to be more intentional about how I use it around my family and the kids, putting it away more. Those types of things are just helpful. And so that's something for you to think about, if your phone is a distraction, if it's causing negative feelings or negative reactions from yourself, or is making you upset, or it's become a distraction for you or your family, perhaps taking some time away from it, putting on that do not disturb more often, so that you can spend time with them, you can spend more time with God. So that's something I would definitely encourage you with. But we need better habits, and we need better discipline in our life. And some things I put into practice while on the sabbatical were some of those lost disciplines. And I've encouraged the groups that I lead here at the church to do this from time to time. But I think we just need to make it more of a normal practice, right? So like prayer and fasting, taking that 30 hours of time away to be alone with God, to pray, to fast, and to just spend time with him and the word. Those were life-giving to me. It was wonderful. Like, God was showing me things, I feel like, left and right about myself, about him, about his character, and reminding me of his goodness and love, but also like his purpose for each and every one of us. And he wants us to thrive. He doesn't want us to just survive. He has a plan for ourselves and our families. And so the more we can do that, even if it's just for a day here, a day there, a meal here, a meal there, take that time and fast from that thing that might be distracting you. Maybe you're one of those that's like, I don't even have time to read God's word or to spend time in prayer. Well, if you take time to fast from your phone or take time to fast from a meal, perhaps you can use that time once a week to spend more time with him. We have to be intentional about making decisions that are going to help us grow in our faith, and sometimes we have to do things like that. So with the prayer and fasting, that silence and solitude, getting away when you can. I know we're not all able to do that. We can't all take off work. We can't all drop what we're doing and make that happen. But for me, I'll just be honest, some of the biggest decisions I've ever made in my life, I prepared to make those by going away and spending alone time in nature with God, like just me and him, the word, because I wasn't sure, what am I supposed to do? What's the best decision for myself and my family here? And I was feeling the weight of that. But oftentimes after spending alone time with him, kind of away from the distractions, away from the noise, and just being with him and asking him sincerely to lead, guide, and direct me, I would come away having a better understanding of the right decision to make. So I encourage you to do that if that's needed. And then also Sabbath. This is something that God has really woven into the fabric of creation. It's part of who God is. It's part of what he wants us to do. So this was a command in the Old Testament. It's definitely something that we should put into practice, at least in principle, now in the church age. And so if it's not going to be Sunday, is there another day of the week that works for you to have some Sabbath time of just rest and rejuvenation and time and worship with God? Maybe you work on Sunday and you're not able to really to rest on Sunday. Maybe that's Saturday for you or another day of the week. For us pastors, Sunday is kind of a work day in the sense that, we're at church all day. And yes, we get to worship God, but we're also interacting with people and dealing with issues at the church and while classes are happening, while the service is going on. And so it's not always the most relaxing day of rest. And so for each of us, we have a separate day off. So for me, it's on Mondays. And what I'll do is spend some time to just kind of be away from all the noise and spend some time with God, but also be able to catch up on things I'd like to, or be able to do things that I want to do but haven't had a chance to do. One of the ways that my wife and I have implemented this for us is oftentimes on Mondays I was with the kids all day, so it wasn't necessarily a restful day. I was getting to spend time with family, but it wasn't always the most restful thing in the world. And so what we implemented a while back was Saturday will kind of be her day off to kind of do what she would like, get the things done that she needs to do. And Monday will kind of be my day where I can be off and do the things that I would like to, catch up on the things that I need to. And that's been life-giving for us. That's been wonderful. We've been doing that probably a year and a half now, and it's been great. So if we need to be alone, go to a coffee shop and read, or do something that we'd like to do, or go on a hike, or go on a walk, or go to the gym, or whatever, to just be able to have some time away from everything. It's been great for us. So I would encourage you in that. But Sabbath, this is something that we see in Scripture. So think Exodus 20. It says this: "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male servant or female servant, or your livestock or your sojourner who is with you within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy." So we see this, and he's quoting from Genesis, right? So we see work is good, right? We have 6 days of work. God created in 6 days, but what did he do on the seventh day? He rested. Did God need to rest from his creation, from his work? No, absolutely not, but it's an example for us to follow here later on. And so work is good because it was put in place even before the fall. Adam was working in the garden. He was naming the animals. He had responsibilities and things to do. After the fall, though, that work became much harder, right? It caused other things to make it more difficult. But work is good, but rest is also good. We see that. So God created the heavens and the earth. Adam worked. He did these things, but then he commanded him to rest as well. And we rest from our work, but we also work out of our rest. And I think that's an important thing to remember. We're able to work well because we've rested well and rejuvenated from that. Look with me at Genesis 2. "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God finished his work that he had done. He rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all the work that he had done in creation." So remember, this is before the law of Moses, the covenantal law. Like, this is something that God implemented into his own creation. So it's something for us to remember, that work is good, but rest is good, and God created it that way. So find a time for you to get away, or just maybe a half a day a week where you can spend some time to rejuvenate. Here's some more benefits of rest that I've learned. God created us to need rest, but to sleep. We need a certain amount of sleep each night to function well each day. Now, that varies from person to person. Some people think they can function well in 4 hours. Really, a good average is like 8 hours, but some people might need more than that. But literally, God created us to need sleep, and so we just need to remember that if this is going to help us work better, it's going to help us interact better with people, like, we need to do it and take the time to do it. When we rest well, we're renewed, we're rejuvenated. It helps us to have a fresh perspective. It gives us a restart. So whether that's just getting better rest or getting away and getting perspective, I think we need to take that seriously because God takes that seriously, doesn't he? And we must recognize different seasons in our life. I think depending on the job that you have, there might be some seasons that are busier than others. So obviously teachers, obviously coaches, different people have different seasons of their life that might be more busy. So there's going to be seasons of yielding, like producing fruit, and there's going to be seasons of pruning. There's going to be times where you need to be working to be built back up because maybe you've been kind of worn down and tired out because of the season that you're in. But this is part of that biblical imagery, right? A tree must be pruned in order to bear more fruit. So maybe you're in kind of a tough season because life is just crazy, life is busy. But the hope is that it won't always be that way. But if you don't see any end in sight, you might need to make some changes and do things differently so that you can get rest, so you don't burn out and you're ineffective for what God would have you to do and the mission that he has you on. So be like thinking and praying about that. Like if you're burnt out or you don't see an end in sight, maybe some things need to change. Maybe you need to let some things go. Maybe you need to be saying no more when people ask things of you. Maybe you need to step away from some things as well. But if your schedule and your busyness and the things that you're doing are keeping you away from God, if they're keeping you away from church, if they're keeping you away from community and relationships, then that's not what you need to be doing. Like you need to have time for those things. So making sure you're making decisions that are going to help grow those areas of your life is, I think, very important. One thing we need to remember through all of this, especially if we're struggling, is just the fact that Jesus is our rest. We see this in Matthew 11:28-30. It says this, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So if you're struggling right now, you don't see any end in sight to the busyness of your life, you're feeling worn down, burnt out, first off, we must recognize that Jesus is our rest. He's the only one that can ultimately give that to us, whether that's the restlessness of our souls because we don't have a relationship with him, or the restlessness of our situation, or the things that we're dealing with. In all those situations, Jesus is the answer. He's going to give you rest. But we have to give those burdens to him. We have to allow him to take those on himself. And we can't just hold on to those, say, oh no, I can take care of it. No, like Jesus wants to take those. He wants to walk with us through those things that we're dealing with and going on in our lives. So let me encourage you in that. So find time to get away, find time to rest, find time to be rejuvenated and built up so that you can be more effective for God's kingdom. And he wants us to thrive in that way. A few resources, speaking of those verses being Jesus is our rest. Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland. This would be a great one to read. It's all about how Jesus is our rest, but also how the heart of Christ is for sinners and sufferers. And it deals directly with those verses. So if that's something that you are dealing with or working through, that might be a good one to pick up. And then this one, I got this book at the conference I was at. It's Scrolling Ourselves to Death, which, kind of dark when it comes to the title, but really it's the idea of the phones in our hands, social media and the things of that nature today. We are so distracted, and we're actually bringing more anxiety and depression and despair on ourselves because you've heard the phrase doom scrolling. We just do that without any idea of how long we've been doing it. Again, most of the news is negative. A lot of it's not good for our souls. And in some cases, it's literally leading people to death, whether it's suicide or people on their phones, like doing stupid things and dying as a result of it. And while their phone is in their hand, like literally, for some, it's killing them. Whether or not, if it's physical, it's kind of that spiritual. It's sucking the soul out of you. So I'm not against phones. I use it. It's a great tool. but is it something that is causing more anxiety, depression, despair in your life? And that might be something to consider as well. So we need to remember, if that's something we need to diminish the use of in our lives, perhaps putting that aside. If we need to get away for a time and make an effort to get some time in our schedule to be away, to rest more. If we need to fast and pray and get to be alone for a time. If we need to be rejuvenated, sometimes you have to make drastic decisions in order for those things to take place and to happen. But I do believe at some point that's what has to take place in order for us to get to that next level of spiritual growth. And so we don't plateau, we don't hit a wall, we keep growing, and that's the way God designed it. And so I would really encourage you in those things. And so, it was a wonderful time away. I'm glad to be back. Definitely gotten back into things, leading different ministries and groups and meetings, preaching this weekend. So I'm excited to share about some of the things from our trip and get into a little more detail of that as well. But thank you for tuning in. If you're listening or watching, it'd be great to share this with other people, not just this episode, but others, so that they can see what we're all about here. We've probably recorded 85 or 90 of these, and getting close to our 100th episode in July, I believe. And so we've been doing this for a year and a half now, and it's been wonderful and hopefully a helpful tool for you to keep growing in your faith and encouraging your heart as we do these types of devotionals, as we interview people. We're going to keep this coming. But one of the things I am planning on doing in order to have more time for other things, I'll probably be pulling back somewhat from this. And so just doing this probably once a month. So that's one area what I found that will help me to have more time for other things. And those are other areas that I've evaluated while being away that maybe I can pull back from here or let go of this thing or that thing. And so that's one of the things that I've kind of been working through as well. And so I think at some point in our lives, we got to do that with the things. We got to take time to evaluate the things in our lives, the things that take up our schedules, and think, is this helping me, or is this kind of hindering me from my time and the time with my family and ministry and all those good things. So it's good to be back on here, but this may just look a little different in the days ahead. But again, we'd encourage you to share this with others. Thanks for tuning in. You can leave us a rating and review. Want to get this out there to more people. But definitely we'll keep these things coming, and we'll see you back on here next week.